The Huffington Post has an article by a guy named SV Date, and he usually does decent work. I've used his work before on the show. He's a pretty good journalist, but this one is more of an opinion piece, and man, when he gets into opinion, it's not good. I'll be kind and leave it at that. Even though I'm not about to leave it at that, I'm about to go into detail about how this is a ridiculous argument. So the piece is titled, "No, the system's not totally rigged, but that idea sure helped Donald Trump." And what he's going to do in this piece is attempt to link Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump and then argue against their main thesis on the campaign trail. So he says the following: "The hardcore conservative and the bleeding heart progressive had this in common. Both believed the nation's political system was badly and thoroughly broken. It needs to be blown up," one voter said. "Rigged system, burn it all down, political revolution, drain the swamp." From the crowds cheering on Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders as he campaigned for the Democratic nomination to the throng supporting developer-turned-reality show host Donald Trump, it was the theme that defined the election year. The United States has become so completely broken that it needs a thorough flushing to fix things. He continues, he says, "It was also a theme somewhat detached from reality." Interesting. Please explain. He says, "The nation holds elections regularly, the courts function, and agencies at local, state, and federal levels provide services according to established rules and without the expectation of bribes or kickbacks, a staple in many dozens of actually corrupt countries." All right, let's pause here. Do you see what he just did? So he took the main argument of Bernie Sanders and to an extent the argument of Donald Trump. But remember, we're talking about just the rhetoric that he used on the campaign trail as opposed to his actual actions. His actions have shown to be massively corrupt, but his rhetoric on the campaign trail was anti-corruption. But he's taking that rhetoric and he's taking that argument of, hey, the government's super corrupt, the establishment is screwing everything and screwing the people, we need to burn it down. He's saying, no, that is not true, and his reasoning is, well, we have the court system works, and, local government kind of works, and state, and even federal government sometimes works. And then he says, they work according to established rules without expectation of bribes or kickbacks, a staple in many dozens of actually corrupt countries. Now understand, I'm not here to argue that other countries are not corrupt. In fact, I'm well aware that they're, probably the overwhelming majority of countries on Earth are just rife with corruption. I get that. But, hey dude, do you not understand the way our system works in terms of the financing of it? Do you not get that we've effectively legalized bribery in the United States government? See, there are these things called campaign contributions, and they are fundamentally legal bribes. Because what happens? You have corporations, you have billionaires, you have individuals, you have special interests. They give money to the politicians, to their campaigns, to their super PACs, to them, depending on if they're in office or not, and then they turn around and do favors for them. But he's going, no. See, technically that's legal here, so we don't have illegal bribery. Dude, you're doing sheer sophistry. That's all this is. He continues. Indeed, elected officials at every level keep careful track of feedback from constituents, so that in instances where they must choose between angry campaign donors and angry voters, they typically side with the voters. What? Okay, this is remember when you were in school and they would hit you with citation needed? That's what he needs. What are you talking about? That's not, he just says it. Like, oh yeah, no, whenever there's a conflict between donors and voters, I mean, the politicians always go with the voters, right? Says who? Like, what are you talking about? Are you going to cite a study? No, you're not going to do that because you're fucking dead wrong. Hey, SV, why is it that we elect Congress and then you come back a month later or 2 months later and you do a poll on favorability of Congress and they have a fucking 9% approval rating? Now, on a good day, it might be as high as like 21%. Ooh. But you just elected him. And now it's 9% to 21%. Why is that? It can't be because, oh my God, they're doing such a great job and everybody's so happy because they're getting exactly what they asked for. No, it's because the people know they're always picking between the lesser of two evils, and they know that your main point here is exactly wrong. Of course they blow off the voter. Of course they don't do what they want. Look at the opinion polls. The American people are solidly liberal, and we don't get liberal policies because they're not listening to the people, they're listening to the donors. In other words, the exact opposite of what you said here. You just argued, hey, when the voters are angry, the politicians listen to them. But they don't. What are you basing that on? You're not basing that on anything. You're just talking out of your ass. All right, more. Thomas Mann, a longtime Congress watcher at the liberal-leaning Brookings Institution, points to issues like abortion, same-sex marriage, and even guns, which occupy a disproportionate amount of policymakers' time, even though they are not priorities for big business. Quote, a lot more goes into policy making and decisions than money, and the idea that it's all bought and sold is really quite destructive. So let's understand what's happening here. These are so-called liberals now arguing that the system's not that corrupt. It's not that corrupt. You know, the establishment's not that bad. And the reason I'm arguing this is because Trump. Because Trump's rhetoric was the opposite. So since his rhetoric was the opposite, I'm just against Trump. I'm a knee-jerk reactionary idiot who's against Trump no matter what he says. If Trump came out tomorrow for single-payer universal health care, I would say, that's not a good idea. So they're against him even when he says obvious things. And now they're going as far as saying the idea that everything's bought and sold in the government is a destructive idea. No, what's destructive is the fact that everything actually is bought and sold in the government. And what's destructive is your apologetics for that system because Trump. And also what's disgusting is your linking of Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump. All right, now also, when he brings up, same-sex marriage and abortion and guns, like these are things that, you know, these are issues where the donors are not involved. Well, hold on now. Did you guys know that when the government flipped to being pro-gay marriage, it wasn't just that the public was overwhelmingly now on the side of gay marriage. It was also that the gay lobby now has more money than the anti-gay lobby, than the fundamentalist Christian lobby. That is a little-known fact. Back in the day, the Christian lobby was super powerful. The moral majority with Pat Robertson and John Hagee and Jerry Falwell, and there was a movement behind that, social conservatism and Christianity in politics. They were big, man, and they had a lot of money. But now that's fallen off, and what's risen is, wealthy gay people lobbying the government for gay rights. Now, I agree with them, obviously, but I would like to come to the proper conclusion, let's have gay marriage, not because our side has more money, but because we're right and we convince people in a marketplace of ideas. But again, it took the money to catch up before we actually got gay marriage in the country. And even with guns, they're like, guns? Donors don't care about guns. Yeah, except the NRA has bought local governments and state governments all around the country, and then they also bought Republican politicians in Congress. And look at that. We get every piece of gun legislation, no matter how mild the reform is, it gets blocked. We couldn't even get a watered-down background check bill through. So even their prime examples of money doesn't affect these things, well, yes, they do. But even if they didn't, you're talking about the exception that proves the rule. Because you're talking, oh, look, there's 7% of the issues where money is not as important as all the other issues where money is the main factor. Why do you think it is that Wall Street got this massive bailout? Why is that? Well, we gotta save the economy. Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on now. So you're making it, well, we have to save it. What are you going to do? These small towns are going to be in danger if we don't bail out Wall Street. I mean, you don't want the whole system to collapse. Weird, because when a local deli goes under, or a local dry cleaner goes under, or a small local bank goes under, staples of different rural communities around the country, does the government rush in and say, I'm going to bail them out? And it's not even going to cost that much either. It's going to give, $1 million to this little deli, and it'll be funded as far as the eye can see. No, they don't give a fuck. Why? Because they didn't pay their fucking bribes. The big banks and the Wall Street firms paid their fucking bribes. So that's why they get bailed out. This stuff is clear to anybody who's paying attention or who's not lying. All right, let me give you more. They say, Transparency International, a group that tracks corruption worldwide, ranks the United States 16th among 168 nations. They're bragging about that. Like, well, what's the problem? I mean, we're like 16th on corruption, so isn't that good enough? No, you fucking idiots. First of all, virtually all the governments, like I said before, virtually all the governments on the planet are corrupt. The overwhelming majority of governments are corrupt. So to be 16th on a list of where almost all of them are corrupt, that's not like oh my God, we all need to get our shit together and get money out of the political system. But they use this as a fact on their side. Like, we rank 16th. We're not that corrupt. Oh. And finally, they say here, the U.S. doesn't really do terribly, said Shruti Shah, a vice president of transparency at the group's United States branch, and whose native India is rife with bribery in everything from school placement to construction contracts. To Brookings Mann, that could be the Sanders campaign's lasting legacy, convincing an entire cohort of first-time Democratic-leaning voters that the system is beyond repair. That was his major contribution to this election, unfortunately, Mann said. I thought Bernie was very harmful. Oh, boy. So there we go. They bring it home, and what's the final message of this piece here? Bernie bashing. You stupid far-left progressives who actually want to get single-payer, universal health care, Medicare for all. You want to get free college. You want to do a deal to get rid of the student loan debt. You want to stop all the wars. You want to, hold Wall Street accountable and lock up the people for the financial crisis. You want to bring back Glass-Steagall. All you pie-in-the-sky liberals who say the system is broken and we need to fix it, you're the problem. Your ideology is quite dangerous. What Bernie Sanders is saying is harmful. It's not that the establishment is those things. No, the establishment's not all that bad. What's your problem, guys? The problem is you for questioning that establishment. What a sick, sick joke. And these guys pretend that they're liberal. What's liberal about writing an article where you talk about all the problems and perceived problems of the system, and you don't even bring up that we got 7 fucking interventions going on right now? You don't bring up that 54% of the discretionary budget goes to the military. Our military spends more than the next 8 top nations combined, and most of them are our allies. You don't bring up the war in Iraq, which cost $7 trillion. You don't bring up the fact that 50% of the American people make $30,000 a year or less. You don't bring up the fact that 76% of the American people live paycheck to paycheck. You don't bring up the fact that when you broaden that scope out to the entire world, 62 people have more wealth than the bottom 3.5 billion. 62 people have more wealth than 50% of the world's population. Instead of focusing on real problems, 45,000 people dying every year because they don't have access to basic health care in the U.S., hundreds of thousands of homeless people, over 50,000 homeless veterans. Instead of focusing on those things and going, man, we got to fix this, what are you doing? You're punching down. You're punching the progressives and the liberals who say the system's broken and we need radical change to fix it. You're saying, no, that's a harmful idea, and you're just like Trump's voters, and all you guys are so kooky with your idea that the U.S. is corrupt and the establishment is beyond repair. This is establishment Democratic horseshit. They are part of the problem. If they don't get the fuck out of the way and let liberals do their thing and let progressives save this country, we're going to get more Donald Trumps in power, more Republicans in power. Because at least the Republicans, and at least Donald Trump's wing of the Republican Party, at this point in time, at least they bother to pay lip service to the idea that it's all broken and beyond repair and we need change. Now the establishment Democrats, they went from hope and change under Obama. Remember when he ran on that, on that platform? They went from that to incrementalism. Incrementalism is all we need. America's already great. So all those problems that you got, blame yourself for those problems, because the establishment is really not all that bad. We're not all that corrupt. Everything's going kind of smoothly. So stop with your pie-in-the-sky hippie bullshit, you people who actually want to change the system. This is really gross to watch the left, the supposed left, become this.